Hi, welcome to CSE114 Introduction to Object Oriented Programming, and this is the semester summer 2020 session number 2 extended, and this is the first lecture of CSE114 in this semester. Alright, and this first lecture would be about the introduction. So in this lecture I'll give you some overview about what the course is all about, what you should be expecting, and what we will study. Okay, so let me start with the course description, which is something you will also find in the course on our SBU website. So this course is titled Introduction to Object Oriented Programming, but what we do initially, we do the basics of procedural programming, and later on we go into object oriented programming. So you should expect first few lectures, I would say some at least 3 or 4 lectures where I will be discussing the basic programming which may not involve any object oriented approach. So in the basic programming I'll give you some idea about how the variables are to be declared in Java, and what are the different data types in Java, and how do we write different conditionals, how do we write different loops, and how do we create our methods. So functions in Java are called methods. So all these things I will cover in the initial few lectures, and later on, after that, once we develop a good understanding of the basic programming structure, which would be kind of procedural, then I'll take you to the object oriented concepts. So that's the reason we are saying that. Let me use a pen here. Okay. Alright, so that's what we have. We will have procedural programming and then the object oriented programming in that order. And the main topics in CSE 114 that we will be covering would include programming structure, then conditionals, then I said iterative programming, that means different kinds of loop, how do we write a specific loop, right? So all these things we will discuss. Procedures means the methods, how do we write methods or functions in Java. So functions in Java are called methods, right? Then we'll look into arrays, data structure, and then we'll go to objects and classes. From there onwards it will be all object oriented programming, and we will discuss these important concepts of object oriented programming, like encapsulation, information hiding, inheritance, and polymorphisms. Okay, so these things that you see in the green color are some important attributes of an object oriented programming. After that we will look into the file IO and exception handling. Alright, so these are the main topics that we will go over in CSE 114, and we will have the labs as well. So labs and lectures, right? So these are two important meetings for CSE 114. You might be knowing about prerequisites. So we need level 4 math for this thing, and then this is the advisory prerequisite, which is CSE 101 or ISE 108. Alright, so you might be wondering, like, what is this course all about, what would be the focus? So although we are starting from the procedural, so that is anyway needed for those programmers who are new to programming. So for them I believe the initial part would be very important, because in the initial few lectures they will know how to write a program in Java, right? So the whole programming would be done in Java. But later on, the focus should shift totally to the object-oriented programming. So the course focus is to give you some idea about how the object-oriented softwares are developed, right? We won't go to that extent, but when you start writing some fairly decent programs, like your project towards the end and your final few assignments, then when you do work on those, then you will realize like what is the approach that people usually follow for designing object-oriented software. So that's the goal actually. That's what we want to uh, teach you. And in this whole process, when you have to ultimately understand the development of object-oriented program, you will end up learning this very important technique, which is problem solving, right? So I will explain to you what is problem solving with the help of an example. And in my class on programming, the first thing that I tell my students to do is to think about the approach that they will use to solve a problem. So programming comes later. First, you should be able to solve that problem as a human being. And once you have a very clear-cut idea of solving that problem as a human, then you should think of translating that solution into algorithms, and for those algorithms you will write program. So you might wonder like what is this algorithm, right? So don't worry, we will learn about all those things. I'll tell you what an algorithm is. So let's take a problem, right? Just to understand like what is this problem solving. So you will come across some assignments in homework. So let me think of an assignment. I might give you a problem which is fairly simple if you are already a programmer, which says that let's check whether a given word, right, is a palindrome or not, right? So we have to check for palindrome. So given a string or a word, you will check whether that word is a palindrome or not. So let's think of some words like madam, madam, that's one word. And we can have another word. Let me put the second word as banana, banana. Alright, so these two words if you look at, then I will call the first one as palindrome, whereas the second one is not a palindrome, only first one is palindrome. Now let's try to understand what is a palindrome. So palindrome is a word which is symmetric, right? So what do I mean by symmetric? Let's think about this word, right? So if you look at the extreme two characters, then we have m towards the end, right? The beginning character is also m, the end character is also m. Then the next, if you move in this direction, then the next character that you encounter when you move from left to right is an a. And similarly, if you move to left from right, then the next character is a, right? So extreme two characters are matching, which is m, and the next two, the extreme characters, which is a and a on the left as well as right, are also matching. And in the center you have d. So there is a symmetry in this word, right? Every character is symmetric, right? So m matches m, a matches a, d matches d. So we will call this a palindrome. Let's try to see, do we have a palindrome in the second word? Like, is banana a palindrome? To check that, what you have to do, you will have to compare B with A. Does that match? No. So since the very first instance of extreme characters don't match, so there's no point comparing the other characters, right? So this is the logic that you should have. Although this problem of palindrome can be solved in a number of different ways, but this is one of the method which I believe is very efficient. Alright, so what was the reason of doing this exercise? The reason of doing this exercise is to give you some idea about problem solving. What was the problem? The problem is to check whether a given word is a palindrome or not. And what's the approach that we used? We use this approach right now, which is that whenever you will give us a word, we will try to compare the extreme two words, the leftmost with the rightmost. Then we'll go to the next word from left, and similarly we'll go to the next word from right, and we'll keep on comparing each character in the word till we reach to the middle. And if when we reach to middle we found every corresponding characters matching, then we have a palindrome, otherwise we don't. So that is the problem solving. That means coming up with the concept. Problem solving means coming up with the concept that will help us in solving the problem. After you have developed this logic of solving a problem, then you should think of writing the algorithm means, well, having some step by step logic of solving the problem. Right? You know how to solve that as a human being, but ultimately you have to write a program so that the computer can do it for you. And this translation of the way we will solve directly to how the computer will solve is little tricky. So ideally what we should do, we should try to map the solution that we have into an algorithm. Algorithm means the formulation of systematic step-by-step approach to solve the problem. Okay, so we may not write algorithm systematically, but it will be somewhere there implicitly in your problem solving. And when you translate the algorithm in the translation of an algorithm, I'll write that ALGO into okay, wait a second, let me erase it, it's not making too much sense. What I will say, let me keep it very simple for the first lecture. When you write the algorithm, right, so usually the algorithm is written in pseudocode. Alright, so we write algorithms in pseudocode, and that when you translate this pseudocode in Java, when you translate pseudocode in a programming language like Java, then that will result in a Java program. Okay, so we will learn about all these things. So when I'm teaching you, when I'll be explaining to you some program, then first of all I'll give you the basic concept behind the program, because that's the most important thing. If you have developed the basic concept, then writing the algorithm and hence programming is very easy. For programming you'll have to learn the syntax. Okay, good. So we will teach you the problem solving, and then we will teach you how to write a program. Once you have developed that concept for solving that problem, and how we should write a Java program, for that we'll have to learn the syntax. So I'll cover the syntax as well, so don't worry about that. Then in this course itself we will learn the object oriented features. We'll learn about objects and classes, like how do we declare a class in Java, and once we have declared a class, how can we use the class to create our own objects. So this is something which might be a little difficult for you to understand right now, but as and when we progress, I believe it will come naturally to you. Nothing to worry about right now, nothing to worry about. And I'm not sure whether you followed this problem solving thing. If not, then don't worry. Alright, if you're following, that's a great news. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate, ask me questions, and we have a good team of TAs as well, so you can reach out to either me or to the TAs. Alright, and the language that we will be using in this course is Java. Alright, and Java is a very popular programming language. Okay, so let's move on. Now, other important things about the way this course will be delivered. It's an online course, and the online course can be taught in two ways. One is synchronous, the other one is asynchronous. So let me tell you about asynchronous, like what do we mean by asynchronous mode. So usually the in-person class, let's start with the in-person class. In-person class is an example of synchronous teaching, where we have a fixed time. Every week we have fixed time when the lecture would be delivered. Professor reaches the classroom, The students are also present in the classroom. Professor will teach, and maybe the professor will teach for 1 hour 20 minutes, or maybe some 3 hour 30 minutes, and after that the class is over. So that is synchronous. That means there is a fixed time when the professor will deliver the lecture, and the students, they are also supposed to be present during that time when professor is delivering the lecture. Whereas asynchronous mode is slightly different, and I'll be teaching in asynchronous mode. So let's try to understand what does that mean. So asynchronous means that we don't have any fixed lecture time. Alright, so what I will be doing, I will be recording my video lectures as I'm doing right now, and I will post my video lectures well ahead of time, and I will post an announcement that I have posted the first lecture, or maybe the sixth lecture, seventh lecture, and so that I will upload, and then I'll make an announcement so that you people watch that video lecture whenever you find time. So that's a kind of flexibility from the instructor side, and it offers a lot of flexibility for students as well. And whenever the students, they want to go over the lecture, they can go over the lecture. Okay, so that's about the way this course is to be delivered. Online asynchronous mode, no fixed lecture time. But for lab, right, this statement that I'm making, it is for lecture. Lecture is asynchronous, but for labs it will be synchronous. Synchronous means I have some TAs. I will assign the students to different TAs, and if you have any question about the lab assignments, then you can ask that question to the TA during their office hours. So in a way, I will say that the labs are synchronous, and more detail I'll be sharing with you pretty soon. That is about your lab. Okay, and course material, whether it is a video lecture or lecture slides, homework, project, lab assignments, all these things would be provided by the blackboard, on the blackboard. Okay, and please expect all these announcements, reading assignments, grades, all that thing would be posted on blackboard. So please make sure that you are following the blackboard announcements, and you are checking the blackboard regularly. Okay, so now the information about instructor, that is me. I'm Praveen Tripathi, and I joined Stony Brook in fall of 2017. I hold PhD degree from University of Texas at Arlington, Texas, and I graduated in 2017. And as goes my office hours, I'll be holding my office hours using Zoom. It will be on Monday and Wednesday from 2:30 p.m. to 4 p.m. If you're not available during my office hours, then you can ask me for appointment. And the email that I prefer for communication is praveen@cs.stonybrook.edu. And there's one thing I realized, that I made one mistake when I said when I told you about my PhD. I graduated in 2016, not in 2017. Sorry about that. All right, so this is the information about TAs. We have 3 TAs: Deepthi, Dheeraj, and Siddhi. They are holding their office hours on Monday and Friday is when Deepthi will be holding office hours, and it's from 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Dheeraj will be holding office hours on Tuesday and Thursday from 12 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. And you have the email address of the TAs as well, so if you have any questions, you can reach out to them, and please join them in your office hours. In their office hours, TAs are a great resource, and these are smart people. Siddhi Mundana, her office hours will be on Siddhi Mundada, sorry. Her office hours would be on Monday and Wednesday from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. All right. Okay. So now some very general, instructions I will say, which I want to share with you. So this is regarding the communication when you are trying to reach out to us, and if you have any question, then what is the best way to communicate? So these are very general things but often ignored. So since very often we use more than one course, and currently I'm teaching two other courses as well, so this is my third course that I'm teaching in the summer. So it would help if you could, in that email itself, tell me about the course in which you are registered. So your course, your email subject should have CSE114 there in the subject. Okay, so you should have CSE114 in your subject when you are writing your email to us, me or the TAs. And then you should also mention what problem you are facing. So assume that you are doing your homework number 2 and there's some question which is bothering you. So it will help if you exactly say that, in the homework number 2, I'm having difficulty in solving question number 2. So that way it will help a lot. And if you could specify even more that, on doing this thing I'm struggling, so that way it will be a lot easier for us to help you. Alright, so we might be able to solve your problem right there in that email itself. So please keep these things in mind. Be specific in your email if possible. Otherwise it's fine, we will figure it out. Now the most important thing is our textbook, and it's an amazing textbook, my favorite book on Java, I should say. And it's Introduction to Java Programming brief version. Please keep this in mind that this is a brief version. We have a comprehensive version as well. So comprehensive version is little detailed, and although the comprehensive version is a superset of the brief version, so if you got the comprehensive version from your friend, that is fine, but don't buy the comprehensive version. If you have to buy the book for CSE114, then I'll say that you should get the brief version. Alright, if for some other reason you want to buy the comprehensive version, that is fine too. But if you just want to buy the book for CSE114, then I'll say go with the brief version, because that's the one we will be using for this course. We are using 11th edition, and the book cover should look something like this. Author is Daniel Liang, and it may be available at the bookstore, so you may like to check with them. Otherwise, I will say that you can buy this textbook from Piazza. It depends on you. How do you like to read the book? Are you the person like me who prefers to have a printed copy or the physical copy? If you are like me. Otherwise, if you are happy reading the book as ebook, then probably you should go for something which is some offer that Pearson people have, in which you can get the access code for My Programming Lab as well as the e-textbook in very cheap price. Alright, so a textbook is needed, and along with the textbook there is another thing which we need, and that is My Programming Lab. So as far as I remember, I already reached out to you people with an announcement which is about My Programming Lab. My Programming Lab is exercise that comes along with the textbook, and the labs that you will be doing, the exercises in the lab that you will be doing would be from My Programming Lab. Okay, so your lab portion of CSE114 in the semester would be from My Programming Lab, right? So you need to buy an access code that comes with the textbook. Okay, so when you buy the access code, then you will be able to register to My Programming Lab, and then only you will be able to do the exercises that we have in the My Programming Lab. Okay, so you need to buy the access code. When you buy the book, please also buy the access code, because that will be required for you to register to My Programming Lab. And often the students, they confuse this access code with the course ID. This access code which you have to buy, access code is not course ID. Course ID is different. For course ID you don't need to buy course ID. I will provide you the course ID which is there in the next slide. Access code is something which you have to buy from the bookstore or from the Pearson web page. Okay, so what you can do, it's possible to attempt to register, and while registering buy this access code. Okay, so while you are attempting to register, there also I believe you'll get an option to purchase the access code. So you can purchase the access code. For that you'll have to go to this web address, which is http myprogramminglab.com. This is the Pearson site. Now the course ID is right here, okay, which you don't have to buy. You have to purchase access code, not the course ID. Course ID is provided right here. This you will need while you are registering at my programming lab, and we will be giving you weekly some lab assignments that will be from my programming lab, and these lab assignments will carry some points towards your final grade. I'll tell you the grading distribution in the next few slides. Alright, so I believe these things are making sense to you. If not, we will discuss. Okay, so for this course I'll be using Piazza. I will create the Piazza section, and I'll send you a notification. You can join Piazza, and Piazza is a discussion forum which is very handy in the discussion between the students, and also between the instructor and the student, TAs and the students, right? So it's a very interesting, very useful platform for discussion. Yeah, it's a discussion forum, you can call. But while using Piazza, I'll ask you to be careful, because we don't want you to be posting solutions on Piazza. So as an example, assume that there is some student who's struggling with a problem, and the student is saying how to solve this, and you are very generous, and you will post the solution. So please don't do it. Posting a solution on Piazza is prohibited. If you're doing it, then you will be in trouble. That will be considered as academic dishonesty. So please don't post solutions on Piazza. That's the reason I have that in red. Avoid doing it. And there's another thing actually, which is close to posting the solutions. Even if you are struggling with a problem, you have written a program and there is some bug in the program, even then you are not supposed to post your program on Piazza. We will immediately take that down with a warning that please don't do it. Okay, now you might be wondering, like, how should you ask for help if you're not allowed to post the programs? Well, if you need some help, then please come to us, join us in our office hours, show us the code, show us your program, and we'll work on the program and we'll help you out to the best we can. Alright, so avoid posting solutions or programs on Piazza. You can ask general questions. As long as you can write that question in English, you are fine. But no source code, no program on Piazza. Okay, so you should be receiving this invitation to join Piazza pretty soon, maybe in a day or two. So please join Piazza, and that will be very helpful to you. Well, we will need some software. We will have to have JDK, which is Java Development Kit, which we use to write Java programs, to compile the program, to run the program. So what you should be doing, you should go to this website, which is www.oracle.com, and from there install the JDK. So ideal version of the JDK comes with different versions, is 1.8. That is considered to be very stable, and I believe JDK 1.8 is the one which is being used in the textbook, and so I will recommend JDK 1.8. But if for some reason you are unable to find JDK 1.8 and you're getting something very recent, that should be fine too. Alright, but yeah, 1.8 is recommended, but if you get something very recent and it's working fine, I am fine with that. Other than the JDK, you will need an IDE. With IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment, which would be very handy in writing and running your program, writing, compiling and running your program. So there are a number of IDEs available for Java programming, but to make our life simpler, I will say you can stick to Eclipse. Alright, because well, it is up to you. If you don't want to use Eclipse, that is fine too. You can go with NetBeans or anything else. But if you ask me like what I will be using, I'll say I'll use Eclipse. Alright, again, the choice of IDE to some extent also depends on your TA, because if the TA is saying that maybe Eclipse and NetBeans are outdated and we have another IDE which is like IntelliJ. I believe IntelliJ is very popular these days, and if the TA is taking that responsibility that I'll help you with the installation of IntelliJ and it's amazing, please use it, I am fine with that. Alright, but if you want to know my advice, I'll say Eclipse. Okay, and I'll tell you about the IDEs, how to use that and all that, maybe in the next lecture. Okay, so now let's have a look at some important dates. So the classes are starting from 22nd of June, and the labs will also start from that day itself. And before that, date, which is 22nd of June, you will have some lectures available on the blackboard, and you'll have to watch those lectures. So make sure that you are keeping an eye on the lectures from that date, because officially the course is starting from 22nd of June. Similarly, the lab is also starting from 22nd of June. But for the labs, the help would be available in your TA office hours only, and there will be some deadline for lab assignments, so please keep an eye on that. Very soon I'll be posting these deadlines on Blackboard. And since we know about these dates and you know that the labs are starting from 22nd of June, make sure that you have at least the access to my programming lab. Make sure that you have registered to my programming lab by 22nd of June. I do see that some of the students, they have already done it, and I can see some 9 students registered out of 64. So I believe the information that I shared is fine. Nobody complained about the registration issue. So I'll request the remaining students to register before this date, so that when we give you assignments, you are able to do those assignments, and these assignments would be the My Programming Lab exercises. If you are struggling, TAs will be there to help you out with these exercises. Okay, so now let's discuss about the exams. The first exam that we'll have would be the midterm, and this is on 21st of July. That will fall on Tuesday, and I'm keeping these exams in the evening, just in case I have some international students. I'm thinking that probably this will be a good time, 8:45 p.m. EST. I don't know. I'm assuming that this will be fine with the students who are as remote as they're in Asia. Okay, so but if you have any issues and if you need any accommodation, please reach out to us at least 1 week before the exam. Please let me know that you need any accommodation. I will be happy to help you out. Okay, so now about exams. Since it will be an online exam, it will be given through the browser, which is called Respondus Lockdown browser, and it will need a monitor as well. So Respondus Lockdown browser and monitor, these are integrated software. You'll have to install Respondus Lockdown browser. I will share with you the information like how to download that and install that. But for monitor, you will be needing a webcam. Okay, so for exams you will need a webcam, and if you have a laptop, then probably you have a webcam integrated with it. If you don't have a laptop, if you're working on a desktop, then probably you'll have to manage a webcam. And if you can't get a webcam but you have a smartphone, that is fine too. I'll share with you some instructions using which you can use your smartphone as a webcam as well. Alright, so please let me know about these things, and since we do have sufficient time, um, it will be yeah, almost 1 month we have for the first test. So please try to arrange a webcam. That will make your life a lot easier if you don't have one. So for final exam, which is on 13th of August, that will fall on Thursday, its time is again at 8:45 p.m. EST, which is New York time. We will be using the same system. We'll use Respondus Lockdown browser with the monitor. Alright, so please try to get these things done. The first thing is registering for my programming lab, and the second thing is um, getting the webcam if you don't have one, and installing the Respondus Lockdown browser. Please remind me if you need these instructions, then I will be happy to share with you. But I am not concerned too much about Respondus and monitor for the time being, because we have time. The first test would be on 21st of July. But if you need to get those, if you need to get a webcam, then please order that as soon as possible. Okay, yeah, good. Now the other important thing, like your grading distribution. So your midterm exam will carry 30% of your final grade. Final test is 30%, so these two will make up for 60% exams. Then you'll have homework. Homework will account for 24%, and you will have 4 homeworks, each homework carrying 6%. So this is 24% from homework. 10% would be based on your labs that you'll be doing. And these labs are from my programming lab, so let me write that MPL. And you'll have a project worth 6%. If you add all these things, then it will be 100%. Okay, so now for my programming lab, right? So this is a little interesting and initially a little tricky as well. So what will happen? We will give you some exercises. So let me take you to my programming lab for the demo. Let's say keep. So let me show you how does a my programming lab look like. So this is your my programming lab, and you're looking at the instructor's view of my programming lab, but I believe it should be the same for students as well. So these are the exercises, like chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. So what may happen, as an example, just think about this thing that I'll give you the first chapter for the first week. Alright, so what you should be doing, you'll have to click on this thing, right? So when you click on this triangle, it will open up. Then you can pick this thing. So there are these many questions. You will have to click those questions, and you will start attempting the answer. So let's attempt this answer, right? So monitor, printer, status, lights are example of input. Let me try, right? It might be correct or incorrect. So I'm intentionally trying to make it incorrect. So let's see. So for these questions are very interesting, are often very simple. So if the question is like this, that monitors, printers, status lights are example of input devices, let's do that. Well, unfortunately it is incorrect, right? So that thing is being shown here as the red also. So what you should do now, don't worry if it is wrong in the first attempt, you can always try and correct that. Output devices, that is correct now, right? So it does not matter how many attempts you are making in answering the question. If you got it right, it will just consider your correct answer. It will ignore the fact that in the first attempt you gave a wrong answer. So that's the cool thing about my programming lab. If you have the patience, then your patience would be rewarded. Doesn't matter how many attempts you made in order to get the correct answer. Okay, so the first chapter would be easier. So probably I might give you the first chapter to be finished in the 2 labs, right? So you'll get 2 labs in the first week, and I might assign you the first chapter for you to finish in the first 2 labs. So for that reason, you should have an access to the My Programming Lab, then only you'll be able to solve these problems. Okay, so here we have different chapters. When I will be doing the chapters, I'll ask you to do the corresponding labs. And all these things are based on your textbook. So if you have the textbook, then you can read the textbook, and after that, once you have read the content of the textbook, then solving these problems would be fairly simple. So that's your My Programming Lab. Interfaces like this. Okay, and for every chapter we have a lot of questions. Questions will get more intense, all right, once you reach to that point. But it's a very cool thing, right? And I like the fact that it will not penalize you for the number of attempts that you are taking, right? So if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 options, and it's one of the option is correct, then you will have, if you, in the worst case, you will try all these 5 options and ultimately you'll get it right. Okay, so that's the cool thing about My Programming Lab. So each problem set contains a number of small exercises. I showed you, right? One more time if you want to look at that. So like chapter number 1, these are sections. Okay, so there's this introduction, and then you have section 1.2. You can click this. So there are these many questions. You'll have to do all these questions, right? Then you go to section 1.3, do all these questions here. 1.4, go do all the questions here. 1.5, you do it. 1.7, you do it, right? So each chapter will have some sections, and you'll have to do all the questions which are right here. Okay, each problem set contains a number of small exercises. Click all of these disclosure triangles to make sure that you don't miss any problem. You may take as many attempts as you need to solve each problem. Your score is based on whether your score is based on, let me highlight this, although I have already given you this idea. Your score is based on whether you get it correct and is not affected by the number of trials it took, right? So it's kind of awarding you for your patience. And another thing, don't overthink. MPL exercises are usually very simple and that don't require very long or complicated solutions, right? So these are fairly simple based on the content of the textbook, because this is an exercise that comes along with the textbook so that the students can do the exercise. They can practice programming. Alright, so now it's about the way we will be giving you the points, how you'll be awarded for your program. So unfortunately, when you are doing programming, you are graded as binary. So we emphasize correctness. If your program is correct, you get all the points. If it is wrong, unfortunately, you will lose all the points. Sometimes we do give some partial credit, but I'll say right now, you should aim for correctness. Try to give the correct answer and earn all the points. Now, similarly, the assignments that you will be getting, there also your assignment would be graded on correctness. So make sure that you are writing correct program. The program should give the output that we are expecting. Sometimes we might give you the partial credit, but don't rely on partial credit. I'll say that be ambitious and try to write the correct program. Okay, so aim for coding correctness as you go. The most important point is that the grade that we provide you is based on your performance in different tests and the assignments that we are giving you. We don't have any means of measuring your effort, and I believe almost every student does the best that she or he can. So unfortunately, we cannot grade you on the basis of your perceived effort. We can only your effort we cannot evaluate. What we can evaluate is your performance. All right. So the grade that you get would be based on your performance during this semester on different exercises and the tests that we give you. All right. So for assignment submissions, for homework, you'll have to submit the homework through Blackboard, and we will give you the sufficient instruction in the assignment itself, like how you should submit your assignment, where exactly, and what would be the deadline. All those things we will specify in the respective assignments. For my programming lab assignments, you need not to worry too much about submission. What you should be concerned about is that you are finishing those assignments on time. So once you submit, your result is stored right here. Okay, so you don't need to submit those solutions to us. Just solve those problems on MPL. You are fine. We'll get your score. There's a way how we can download your score. Alright, so that's the point. Your problem that you're solving on MPL are submitted automatically through the MPL website. You don't need to worry about the submission. You should worry about the other assignments that we will be giving, which will be non-MPL. The programming homework and projects are submitted through the Blackboard. That's what I'm saying you should be concerned about. The other homework, which is non-MPL, non-my programming lab, non-MPL homeworks and projects, you have to submit through the Blackboard. Deadlines are non-negotiable. Alright, if there is some emergency, then please let us know. Only in case of some emergencies we can give you some relaxation, otherwise it is non-negotiable. Late submissions or improper submissions will not be graded. Okay, so make sure that you're sticking to the submission and criteria, and you are abiding by the deadlines. You should submit everything within the deadline, all the submissions within the deadline. Now the most important thing is academic honesty. Every semester I find um, few students who do not understand or do not respect academic dishonesty, and because of which they get in trouble. So all the work that you're doing should be your own. So please make sure that the work that you're submitting is your own. You should not get it from someone. We have a lot of tools available. We check every submission manually and using the tools also for academic honesty. And if you are suspected of cheating in these assignments or in the exam, then we will pursue that, and this will be brought up to the academic dishonesty committee. And if you were found guilty, then the consequences are really really bad. You'll receive an F course, F for the course, which is pretty bad. All right, so please uh, keep in mind that academic honesty is something you should be always concerned about. All right, try to be honest, right? Try to be honest, because by copying stuff you will get an F, which is the worst grade. So now what you can do and what you can not, let's discuss about that, which will give you some idea about what would be considered dishonesty. So if you want to discuss general concept regarding solving a problem, then that is fine, right? So if as an example, say we have these loops, right? I'm giving you a very very simple example. The assignment that you're doing, assume it involves some loop iteration, and you are having some difficulty with this iteration. You're getting a bug, and you want some help on fixing that bug. So that is perfectly fine. You can ask your friend to fix that code, or you can ask us to help you out with that bug. So those things are fine. You can reach out to us, me or my TAs, or you can get the help from your friend for that problem. But you should never take a solution from your friend. If you're submitting a solution for the problem from your friend or from anywhere else, then that will be considered academic dishonesty. Alright, so that's the point. You may not share the code or other answers, right? So the person who's giving the answer would also be in trouble. The person who's receiving is definitely in trouble, and the other person who's giving this code for the favor would also be in trouble, right? So be careful about it. Okay, so the same thing applies for online as well. We were able to find out that we were able to catch some students who got the solutions from internet, because it is not difficult to catch, right? We have the tools and we know the trick, like how to catch the dishonesty, right? So please be careful, don't get the help from online. All right, because the downside is that the solution that you might get from the internet might be wrong. All right, yeah. So every assignment that you'll be submitting, we will be doing a manual and automatic similarity checking. That means we'll check for the dishonesty. All right, so yeah, please be honest. So what you should be doing, don't leave anything to the last time, because a lot of things can happen. uh, you know so please plan ahead of time. If I'm uploading the homework, say today, and the deadline is in 1 week, then I'll say that start working on that as early as possible. Please plan your time. Okay, don't think that you'll be doing the homework just 1 or 2 days before the deadline. That will not work out. Okay, programming is something that needs time, and if you have to learn programming, please give it sufficient time. So a lot of things can happen, right? So computer lab would be busy. I'm not sure whether you'll be using computer lab here because it's an online course, but there might be some problems with the blackboard. Sometimes the blackboard is down, right? So just to avoid that case, like when you were attempting to upload the solution, just say 15 minutes before the deadline, and blackboard is down, well, that's a very unfortunate situation. So what you should be doing, at least finish that 1 day before the deadline. Start assignment as early as possible. So these are some very general guidelines that I'm sharing with you in this lecture, and deadlines are non-negotiable. Okay, so keep that in mind, that I will not give you any extension in the normal circumstances. So start as early as possible. Take advantage of our office hours. We'll be very happy to help you. You can use the textbook and the slides and my video lectures as well for help on the assignments. So that was it from my side for the first lecture. You're welcome to CSE114 one more time, and I hope you'll have a good time and all the best. If you have any questions, please ask us in our office hours or send us the email. And please register for my programming lab as soon as possible, and install these responders lockdown browser. I'll share with you the link how you can do that. And if you don't have a webcam, then please try to arrange that. We will need a webcam for your tests. Alright, thank you so much. I'll see you in the next video lecture. Bye bye. Take care.